Today, we're going to discuss the whole modern art versus the real art debate, as put by one of you. This topic comes from Chris Matt on Instagram. I will say, I believe Chris Matt had some numbers behind his name. Small tangent to start this off. We got to calm down with the numbers behind the names, guys. I get it. It's a username, but like some of these names just have numbers, and it's like one day I'm going to try and say one of these. I'm going to end up just saying my social security number. It's a whole thing for sure. But yeah, no, I don't remember the numbers, but Chris Matt, shout out to you, because this is a great topic. This is something I've really been wanting to discuss in general. Specifically, he wanted me to discuss, as he put it, the modern art versus real art debate and how it's being leveraged to discredit all art in general. And I think it's an interesting topic. I think this show definitely lends itself to discussing this whole thing at one point, because I mean, if you go on social media right now, within 10 scrolls of whatever feed you're on, especially if you're like me, where I'm on a feed where it's all just painters and, art and all that stuff, right? I love it. It's great. But you will always encounter just the video of the guy showing, like, they're always showing, like, some guy doing something with sand buckets, or maybe they're, like, doing, like, some expressionist thing, painting, and going, this is the state of art, this is crazy, this is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen. And I mean, listen, on a surface level, before we even really talk about this, I gotta say, these guys need to shut up, bro. They're really annoying. Throughout the course of this video, I will probably go over a lot of ways that I actually do agree with these guys, which may surprise a lot of you. I do actually think these guys have a point about something somewhere within their own critique. But my God, if I see another guy on my Instagram feed going, this is not real art. Real art is when guy take paintbrush and paint other guy. It's like, dude, like at a certain point, you gotta just like do some Google searches, because on the one, let's have an open mind here. Maybe you can find something cool in what's going on here, even if it's maybe not for you. And two, I mean, people are still painting other guy. You just gotta search them up. I mean, if you, like, come on, man. These videos really do just annoy me. And to Chris Matt's question here, or rather his prompt, I guess, it's more of a prompt, right? I think there's a way in which this does discredit just all art in general. Because, one, this whole conversation depicts a very bastardized version of the whole modern art scene. It makes it seem as if that's all that's going on, and it's probably dissuading some people from getting into art. I think that's the very functional way in which it's harmful. I think also, though, it's just kind of narrowing people's idea of art. I think that if we all could kind of take a look at this stuff and go, what is this saying? What does it mean? I think we'd be in a probably cooler space. You know what I mean? Elephant in the room does need to be mentioned here, though. This whole conversation comes as a byproduct of how we're consuming things these days, right? There are, on a daily basis, I come across way more visual artists than I do contemporary artists. By the way, I want to actually I should have emphasized this at the beginning. I'm going to use the terms contemporary and modern here somewhat interchangeable. I know technically all the art that these guys are critiquing is technically in the contemporary period. People don't really make that distinction 100% though. I mean, like, if you go to a art historian, they do, but like, when I say the more modern contemporary stuff, no, I'm talking about the more performance stuff. When I'm talking about more traditional visual art, I'll be talking about figures, sculptures, that kind of thing. Just to clear up, because I could try and police my language, but I know it's gonna fall apart at some point, so I just hope you understand what I mean. With that out of the way, I do see more traditional art on my timeline, or on my feed, or on my For You, or whatever, each day than I see this modern contemporary art by a mile. By literally so much. It's not even close. Because as much as you cannot get as much of a reaction out of showing somebody a picture, you can sell it, which makes it that there's 10 times more on there. So many people have businesses these days, and I would be willing to bet at least, if you look at the number of self-employed artists, it's probably really up because of that, and that's a net good. I'll always think that's cool. That's great. But it also has the byproduct that nobody's really talking about the visual arts anymore. And the conversation of modern art is all focused on this sort of new performance art type stuff. I also, on a anecdotal note, think that the performance stuff is cool. I just like it. I do. I mean, when you see one of these, it's like really cool. Like, there are some masterpieces in this genre. Especially, I mean, there was that one where that, oh my God, this is terrible. I don't know the name of the artist, but that woman sat at the table for 8 hours a day, staring strangers in the eyes for 8 hours a day. And then her ex-lover came and stared her in the eyes, and that was like a whole thing. I mean, that's just an example of this medium can do insane things. It really can. Like, there are ways in which performance art is able to say so much more than a picture ever could, because having irony in events, telling stories, having people experience something live in their real life is, just speaking in reality here, a way more powerful way to show somebody something, to make a point, than a picture ever is. And you know, a couple days ago, let's analyze that woman's whole performance art from the lens of Sonder, right? That she's looking these strangers in the eyes and having an emotional connection and having this emotion of Sonder, realizing that they all have their own individual lives. That is something that, as we look at it, is much harder to express in a painting than it is with this piece of performance art. You know, how do you express Sonder in a painting? It could be done, but not as powerfully nor as literally as in this piece of performance art. And in that way, I think that's a great example of showing, like, there's a huge value in this modern art. And that's why, like, these videos do annoy me, because I think if these people just took the time to maybe try just a little bit to see something in them, they could be getting a lot of cool messages. But, and I know this is where a lot of people are going to disagree with me, there is a very genuine lack of mainstream consumable art that is slightly more challenging. What do I mean by that? I mean, I hate that I just did that. I hate when people do that, when they go, what did I mean by that? Because it's like, don't ask yourself the question, just keep talking. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do an apology video for that. But anyways, what I mean by this is that there's all the contemporary stuff of this performance art that's very much bastardized the algorithm, but causing conversations nonetheless, right? For an example, there was this guy that my brother sent me this video. I think I've talked about it on Paint&Talk before, of this guy doing this thing where he was like, I think contemporary art, modern art is dumb. I went to IKEA and did a whole exhibition just with IKEA furniture and said it was high art that I made. And people loved the exhibition, they ate it up, at least in the video, you know, I mean, anything, it could be fake for all I know, but that is an example of causing conversation, because in the comments to that video, all he had were people going, you made art by doing this. This is a piece of art. You caused a conversation. That is a valid piece of art. And I think it's great that this contemporary art is doing that. I think, in a way, I mean, as much as it's the most probably mocked and hated form of art on the internet, it's also probably the most successful form of art right now, because it is causing these conversations in ways that the visual arts, at least the ones that are consumable in the mainstream right now. I'm not talking about, this is a very big distinction I need to make. When I go to galleries here in New York and see just new artists on display, or even old artists on display who are just doing a new piece, there is still a very live and bursting scene. It's just not nearly as mainstream as it once was. The days of the Warhols, the Picassos being these famous giant figures are just not here right now. Maybe they'll come back, I don't know, but you have that contemporary side, causing a conversation. You also have the side of people, and the much more saturated side of just the direct visual arts of, like, I made this painting, go buy a print of it, or I'm going to sell this painting online. If I started coming here every day and ending these paintings, instead of go check this out on the Instagram, I said, this is for sale on the Instagram, that would be an example of it. I'm just flooding the market with my paintings. If you want to buy one, I wouldn't say no. No, I'm joking. But this is making it, this is typically, at least, art that is not challenging, right? A lot of these, at least the consumers are not taking it upon themselves to be challenged by it. It's not causing nearly as much conversation as possibly it could. And I think that presents something that you're missing, that mid-tier of artists that are making things consumable to the general public that are also in the visual arts category, a picture you could hang up, that are causing a conversation. There is if we're looking at just in terms of an art market, there's a market gap there. There is something missing in the market right now. I genuinely do believe that, and as much as I think these guys making these videos being like, look at this modern artist and the thing they did, and I think they're dumb, as much as I think these guys are really annoying, I can't help but be like, this is a symptom, not a movement of just annoying guys on my Instagram feed. This is a symptom of a market gap that is currently not being filled, and I mean, I don't know what it suggests. I think that's the tough part. I mean, honestly, let's call a spade here. If I knew what it suggested 100%, I would go fill that market gap myself, maybe after I got a little better at painting. And if I ever figure it out, I'll let you guys know so we can all get rich together. But, you know, I think there's an argument that it's maybe a lack of ingenuity on the side of artists, of how do I get art out there to the internet that is causing conversations that can become widespread. I think this is something that I've always thought, if a more talented artist than me, who was really capable of putting some deep meaning into art every single day, were to come and do a series like Paint&Talk, that would sell just as much. I mean, it's no secret that personality is kind of what's driving a lot of these artistic spaces nowadays. You have legendary artists like Lady Gaga just making TikToks now because that's where the meta's at, somewhat unfortunately, to be honest. And because of that, I will say that I think that like the market gap could be filled in that way possibly. Again, I'm just not a good enough artist to be the guy to do it, but like if somebody's watching this that's like a legitimately insane artist, please steal my idea, like do Paint&Talk, because I think that could be a way, if you're more charismatic than me and a better painter, to fill that gap and get that art out there. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to see that. I don't think, listen, I think that's a possibility. I don't think I have the solution though. I'm kind of just throwing stuff out there, of course. You know, I do think it's indicative that we're in sort of an interesting space right now where something is missing. The consumers are demanding it. I think there's a little bit of snobbishness in the people in the art space that really don't want to see it. They're going like, you just hate art. And this is a whole other thing where it's like, people have this idea that it's fascists to hate on modern art. And I get their angle of like, if you look at fascist governments throughout history, they've typically suppressed modern and contemporary art that's not strictly in the old ways of expressing emotion in these things. They call it degenerate art. Like, I get that, but like, really, guys? Like, really? Like, are we really doing that? Like, listen, is your historical analysis wrong? Technically, no, but like, you think the guys on Instagram hating on the modern art are the fascists right now? Like, you think this is the problem? I don't know. I just feel like it's like, come on, like give me a break, dude. Like, can we just say these guys are annoying without calling them fascists? Like, I think they just don't like the art they see on their Instagram feed and make a video about it. I don't think that they're not making a political stance by doing that. You don't need to critique culture based on a political ideology. You should critique political ideology based on the culture it produces. Which I guess you could make the argument that's what they're doing. I don't know. That whole thing just annoys me. I just feel like it's very like put those historical analysis skills to some real, maybe do some real fighting instead of just making a thought piece about how the things you're seeing on your Instagram feed are fascist because they're coming at modern art. And like, it's like, come on, there's some big problems and this is not very productive. There's some black mixed in with the white on my palette, and it's actively ruining the section of this painting. And it's led to this painting being like 18 million layers thick. And it's scaring me a little bit. But at the end of the day, I do agree with, especially with the advent of image generation technology, that's probably going to make the visual arts we see on our feeds every day the most devalued we'll ever see them. It's going to be crazy soon, especially. I think with that going on, this conversation is pretty damaging that people are having, where they're wholly discrediting modern art and not putting any effort into it. And I will always put the burden of responsibility on the more informed party. If you are somebody out there who knows about all the great artists right now doing amazing visual arts work, and knowing like there are people out there who hate modern art but would really like this work, and all you're doing is just like thumbing your nose at these people going, they're idiots for not doing research. I do place the burden of informing these people on people like that, because it's like, you gotta, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, do you really just wanna spread great art, or do you just wanna seem smarter than everybody else? If you just wanna seem smarter than everybody else, keep thumbing your nose, for sure, awesome, great job. But if you wanna actually spread great art, you gotta just get in the comments or whatever and be like, there's some great artists out there doing awesome work. You know, maybe name a few, you know, check them out. But that was not me asking you to promo me in Instagram comment section. I realize how that just sounded. Not me. I'm not the guy. I'm not the one you should be promoting. But you know, I'm talking about like the guys in your city, the guys with like that you know of, that are local, that you know about. Like, you should totally be trying to put these people on. Otherwise, I think pointing out the fact that this art is capable of causing really informative and awesome conversations about dense subjects is the important thing. Because I think this conversation can be really damaging and is devaluing all art, because it's not only narrowing people's perspectives on what art is, but it's also causing people to I mean, we're at a point where the visual art and the traditional arts and even performance art has completely been dismissed as forms of expression. Nobody wants to do them anymore. Everyone wants to be a musician now. There are no more painters. Like, there's the last guys we had, I mean, Banksy is probably the biggest right now, and like, he's not filling the gap of a Warhol or a Picasso, you know what I mean? Like, we're in a very different space right now, and I do think that like we need to be having the right conversations about art. And I do think it's very damaging. Art is ultimately any sort of expression of human creative skill or imagination, you know? So it's important to spread that message that like, you're creating art by making a video hating on this right now. I mean, I don't know, the biggest thing to me, and I feel like I'm gonna get a ton of shit in the comments for this, so I hope it's okay that you guys disagree with this take of mine, to those of you who do, because I know a lot of people are gonna be like, no, these people are bad for doing this. People aren't dumb for not liking the sand art they see on their timeline. People aren't dumb for wanting something that is a little bit more traditional and makes them think a little bit in a way that does not involve doing some sort of performance art. That doesn't make them dumb. That means that they haven't had the right thing spread to them. And that actually, all you should see there is maybe a potential customer if you're an artist, you know what I mean? Because that's a guy that might like some art that's more visual, you know what I mean? Not that, again, this is not a video asking you guys to promo me in comment sections. No, but I don't know, that's my take on that. I feel like I missed so many points here. This is such a broad topic. Honestly, to you, Chris Matt, ever since you recommended this, I've been thinking about it nonstop and I've been really nervous because it's such a broad topic and I have so many thoughts on it. There could be a part 2 of this in the future. Give me your thoughts below in the comments on this for sure, because I really love to keep this conversation going. I think this is an important one. I think this is one that this community is the one to have it in. You know what I mean? This is people who are open-minded, into art, and that's what I want. I don't want the snobs that are like, these guys are dumb for not liking what I like. And I don't want the guys that are like, all modern art is bad because it's not what I like. I want people who are open-minded and into this stuff, you know what I mean? So give me your thoughts and we'll continue the conversation sometime soon. I don't want to do it tomorrow because it'll just be more rushed work, but you know, a week, 2 weeks, something like that. This is a painting. It's ice and it looks like the Kid A album cover to me now. Go check it out over on Instagram. I like the texture on it. I don't have really many other thoughts. I think it's a little bit blotchy, but I like the texture on it. I don't know. Go check it out over on Instagram. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, My name is Max Ice. This has been Paint and Talk episode 127. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.